Hey everybody, it's the Van Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we have a very special guest. Let me introduce you to Mr. Neal Shusterman.
Hello.
Hello, Neal. We're so happy to have you on the show again.
Well, thank you. I am happy to be back and in person.
Yes, in person.
Yes.
And with a really cool shirt to boot.
I thank you very much.
I love it. So, Neal, we want to learn a little bit about you.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, let's do the kind of softball stuff. So where are you from?
I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. Spent most of my adult life in California, but now I live in Jacksonville, Florida.
Ooh, wow. That's bi-coastal, as they say.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what do you love Florida?
I've been enjoying living there. I have this fantastic place on the 33rd floor with an unobstructed view, so I just love my view. It's a great view to write to. I can just sit on my balcony and just stare out and see the horizon on 270 degrees.
Not a lot of authors are like this. Like, so you both do writing by yourself.
Yes.
And you do writing with a co-author.
Yes, most recently my son, Jared. I've written 2 books with him, Dry, and now Roxy, which is the latest one.
Very cool. So can you tell us a little bit about what's the difference between writing by yourself and writing with a partner?
Well, when you're writing by yourself, everything is just in your head. I mean, it can be a very lonely place. Of course, you fill it with characters and things, but it's still just all in your head. When you're working with somebody else, you have the opportunity to have a back and forth, and it's you can spend time just really developing the story together, so you don't feel so alone in the process.
Wow, very cool. So you kind of like both of it.
I do.
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic both ways, but I like them both.
And does it kind of I guess in a way I would imagine that's a way to keep kind of a lot of different storylines together in your head is this one I'm writing by myself, but this one I'm writing with my friend, and so like, because I imagine you seem to have a lot of things going on at once.
I do. I'm always
like
juggling lots of different things, and I like it that way.
Do you find that sometimes they bleed into each other?
A little bit. Sometimes I will accidentally start calling characters by the names of characters in another book, which makes me realize that I have to differentiate those characters more, so that actually helps. It helps me realize what's not working.
Yeah, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people would make that kind of connection, that like they might just be like, I did it again, let me start over, as opposed to saying like, well, maybe this means something.
Yeah.
You had that, like, was it the mashed potato moment from Close Encounters?
No, yes.
All right, so Neal, I want to hear about your new book, Roxy. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, Roxy is a story that is about the opioid epidemic, but in such a way that it's a very unique take on it. Because we've seen lots of stories about drug addiction. We wanted to tell it from a unique perspective. So we told it from the point of view of the drugs themselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Is it like little pills with mouths kind of talking to each other, or?
Well, the drugs are kind of like the Greek gods, and they exist in this eternal party in the sky, and like the Greek gods, they come down to earth to mess with us. So Roxy is OxyContin. She's beautiful, she's seductive, she kills pain, but if you fall for Roxy, you fall hard, and she won't let you go.
Oof.
So basically it's drug addiction, but told as a toxic romance.
Wow. Very cool. And so let me ask, how did you all come up with the concept of anthropomorphizing drugs in that way?
I had done another story with my other son, Brendan, in a collection called Violent Ends, and it was a story about a school shooter. And the book was about different authors put together different stories about a school shooter. And we decided we wanted to try a different point of view, so we told it from the point of view of the weapon. How does the weapon feel about everything that's happening in the situation? And so that whole idea of anthropomorphizing inanimate objects, we thought was an interesting take on how to bringing it to drug addiction. And so half the story in Roxy is told from the human's point of view, in which the drugs are just drugs, but the other half is told from the drugs' point of view, where they're living in this world and come down to earth. So it goes back and forth between reality and sort of this fantasy construct.
Wow, and I imagine that's a great way to kind of get some concepts across without having the humanity of a character get in the way. Like if when it's a person talking about drugs, there's a lot of other things involved. It's a lot more complicated. But if you break it down to like the drugs talking directly to the audience, like you kind of can strip a lot of that away, I imagine.
Yes, and it really allows you to have really interesting points of view and perspectives on it. You know, I mean, how do they feel about, you know, the ambivalence of how they feel, who, you know, they were created, many of them, for positive purposes, but yet at the same time, they're doing all of this damage. So there's a sense of ambivalence there as well. And I think, you know, we all kind of feel that ambivalence. Things like painkillers. We know that painkillers are necessary, but what do you do when they become so addictive that you can't, you can't break away from them? So it's something that we're struggling with as a society, and the drugs themselves are personifying that struggle.
Now, do you have a solo project that you've also got coming out soon?
Yes, although it's not entirely solo. It's a short story collection called Gleanings within the world of Scythe. Because I was not ready to leave that world behind. I love those stories so much in that world, but some of the stories are co-written. So there's, I think, 5 stories that I've co-written and with other writers, and I've really enjoyed that, and also the ones that I've done myself. It's just been really fun to go back into that world, tell origin stories of characters that that are fan favorites, and I think it's a great way to wrap up that entire series.
Awesome. Hey, I was wondering something. I wanted to ask you about this. Between the Unwind series and Scythe series, do you see those as kind of opposite ends of the same thing? Like, it seems like in one, like the kids are being kind of like repurposed in a way. But in Scythe, the kids become the repurposers in a way. Like,
that's interesting. I never quite thought of it that way. But I mean, after doing the 5 books in the Unwind series, I wanted to get away from dystopian, but still wanted to tell stories that were socially relevant, futuristic stories. So I kind of flipped dystopia and decided to tell a story about what happens in a world, instead of everything going wrong, what happens in the world when everything goes right, when we get everything we want as a society. And I realized there's still going to be consequences we're going to have to face. And so that was sort of the flip side of Unwind, flip side of dystopian stories, was to tell a story of a world where we've achieved the things we want to achieve and then have to face the consequences of that. And that was Scythe.
Very cool. And kind of on that, so I'd like to get to a game with you.
Okay.
And I've got an idea what I want to do, but let me. All right.
Okay.
Getting ahead of myself. You make me very excited, Neal. I don't know if you can tell, but I get very excited when I talk to you. And I want to play a game with you that's called Truth or Dare.
Truth or Dare.
Are you familiar with this game?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, would you like to choose truth, or would you like to choose the dare?
Oh, I always love to choose the dare.
Very brave, sir. Very brave. All right, so for dare, we're going to play a game called Fortunately, Unfortunately.
Okay.
And this is kind of what I was hoping you would pick, because I was thinking, like, this kind of falls right in line with Unwind and Scythe and that dystopia, utopia thing, where one of us is going to be an optimist and the other will be a pessimist, and we're going to go back and forth saying unfortunately and fortunately on something.
Okay.
Until one of us is stumped or we decide that we're done with the game.
Yeah, I'll be stumped very quickly because I'm never good at these kind of things, but I'm ready to try.
Well, now, do you see yourself as more the optimist or the pessimist?
The optimist.
Ooh.
In spite of the things you might read in the books, I'm more of an optimist.
Well, I think you said you wrote 5 Unwind books, and you were like, I'm tired of living in a dystopia.
Yes.
Let's turn that around. So I can see that. All right. So as the optimist, you're going to start the game.
Okay.
Okay. So fortunately, and then something.
Fortunately, we are able to be here at TLA in person.
Yes, but unfortunately, I had beans for breakfast, and I am very flatulent.
Fortunately, see, you've already stumped me. Do I have to be about the beans?
I mean,
No,
not
that's to follow what
necessarily,
you're
or
saying.
maybe
Okay,
the smell.
Okay. Fortunately, I lost my smell because of COVID.
Oh no. Unfortunately, you didn't lose your sense of taste, and the smell is almost palpable. Like, you can, that doesn't work. Neal, that was awesome. Thank you so much. High five.
High five. Or low five.
Yeah, well,
Great.
It's all low for me.
Always great talking to you, Van.
You as well. Goodbye.
Goodbye.